Sandra had just started working 2 days ago. It was not an easy job, but she was happy to have it. She had been looking for work for a long time, and now that she found one, she wanted to do her best. That morning the sky was dark and the air was cold. Heavy rain poured down, making the roads wet and slippery. Sandra held her small umbrella tightly as she hurried to work. She could not afford to be late. As she walked, she saw something that made her stop. An old woman stood in the rain, shivering. Her clothes were soaked and her feet were bare. She had no umbrella, no coat, nothing to protect her from the cold. She just stood there, looking lost. Sandra felt sorry for her. She walked up to the woman and held her umbrella over her head. "Mama, take this. You will get sick," Sandra said, handing her the umbrella. "Mama, you need to go home." The old woman looked at Sandra with tired eyes and shook her head. "My daughter, I have nowhere to go. I just came from the village. I know no one here." Sandra's heart ached. She reached into her pocket and brought out the little money she had. It was not much, but it was all she had for the day. "Here, Mama, take this and find somewhere to stay." But the old woman did not take the money. She looked at Sandra and said, "I cannot take what you need for yourself, my child." Sandra thought for a moment, then she smiled and said, "Come with me. I am going to work. You can stay with me until you find your way." The old woman's eyes filled with tears. "May the gods bless you, my daughter." Sandra held the old woman's hand and they walked together under the umbrella. When they reached Sandra's office, she found a small corner for the old woman to sit. She helped her dry her wet clothes as best as she could. "Mama, don't worry, I have only a few hours before break time. After the break, I will take you home quickly before coming back to work," Sandra said. The old woman smiled and nodded. She watched Sandra as she worked. This young girl had so little, yet she gave so much. Few hours later, Sandra left the office during her break. She walked quickly under the hot sun, heading to a nearby shop to buy food for herself and the old woman. She did not have much money, but she did not care. Mama needed to eat. While Sandra was still out, Emily walked into the office, her high heels clicking loudly against the floor. She had come to surprise her fiancé, Austin, the CEO. She loved showing up unannounced, just to remind everyone that she was soon going to be their boss's wife. As she entered, she spotted the old woman sitting quietly in a corner. Mama was folding her hands in her lap, looking down at the floor humbly. Emily frowned, disgusted. "Who brought this dirty, poor beggar here?" she asked loudly, making sure everyone in the office could hear. Mama slowly looked up at her, confused. "My child, please do not be angry. I will leave now," she said softly. Emily scoffed and crossed her arms. "You better be. This is my husband-to-be's company. You are not needed here, you dirty old woman. Now get out." Mama sighed and shook her head. "You have a bad character, my daughter. I wonder what kind of man would take you as his wife." Emily's eyes widened with rage. "You poor old woman, just shut up and leave. You have no right to talk about me." Mama slowly stood up, her frail hands trembling slightly as she walked toward the door. She did not argue. She did not fight back. She only walked out, holding back the tears that threatened to fall. Sandra arrived at the office, excited to share the meal she had bought for Mama. But as she approached the building, she saw something that made her stop. Mama was outside. She stood near the gate, looking sad and defeated. Sandra's heart skipped a beat. "Mama, what are you doing out here?" she asked, rushing to her side. Mama sighed heavily. "My child, do not be angry. A woman came in and told me to leave. She said I was dirty and poor and that I do not belong here." Sandra's hands clenched into fists. "Who dared to do this to you?" she asked, her voice shaking with anger. Mama hesitated for a moment before saying, "She said she is the CEO's wife-to-be. Her name is Emily." Sandra's blood boiled. She turned sharply and stormed inside the office. Emily was still there, sitting comfortably on one of the office chairs, looking at her nails like nothing had happened. Sandra walked straight up to her. "Emily," she called, her voice firm and strong. Emily looked up lazily. When she saw Sandra, she smiled. "Oh, the poor little worker is back. What do you want?" Sandra's eyes burned with anger. "How dare you treat my mother that way? What gives you the right to insult an elderly woman?" Emily rolled her eyes and laughed mockingly. "Your mother, that dirty beggar. Oh please, I warned Austin not to employ you, but he didn't listen. And now you are here shouting at me. Sandra took a deep breath, trying to calm herself, but the anger in her heart was too strong. You don't even know if my boss will marry you. I mean, look at you. So mannerless, so full of yourself. Emily's face darkened. What did you just say? She hissed. Sandra stepped closer. You heard me. If you can treat a helpless old woman like that, I wonder how you will treat your future mother-in-law. Or do you think she will be happy with the way you behave? Emily scoffed. Never. My mother-in-law is not poor and dirty like that old woman. She is classy and beautiful, just like me. I know she will love me when she sees me. Sandra shook her head in disappointment. You are so blind, Emily. You think beauty and money make a good wife? No. A good wife is kind, respectful, and loving. But you are arrogant and cruel. You will never know what true love is. Emily's eyes burned with rage. She stood up and pointed a finger at Sandra. I promise you, you are going to lose your job. Believe me, you will regret talking to me like this. Sandra laughed bitterly. I don't care. I don't want to work in a place where people like you exist. You insulted my mother, you disrespected her, and now you think you can threaten me. Do your worst, Emily. I am taking my mother home, and I don't care about this stupid job anymore. With that, Sandra turned around and stormed out of the office. Emily clenched her fists, her face red with anger. We shall see, you poor little girl. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, she hissed. Outside, Mama was waiting. When Sandra came out, she could see the pain in the old woman's eyes. My child, you did not have to fight for me, Mama said softly. Sandra smiled and held her hand. I had to, Mama. No one has the right to treat you that way. Let's go home. As they walked away, Sandra felt a sense of peace. After Sandra and Mama left the office, Emily sat in anger. She could not believe a poor cleaner had spoken to her that way. Her hands shook as she picked up her phone and called her fiancé, Austin. The moment he answered, she pretended to cry. Austin, something terrible just happened, she sobbed. Austin sounded worried. Emily, what's wrong? Are you okay? No, I'm not okay, Emily cried louder. Sandra brought some of her street friends to the office. They insulted me and they tried to beat me up. I was so scared. Austin was shocked. What? Sandra did that? Yes, Emily lied. She even said she doesn't care about her job and walked out like she owns the place. Austin sighed, rubbing his forehead. I will handle it, Emily. Just go home and rest. Emily smiled to herself. Okay, baby, please deal with her. She deserves it. After the call ended, Emily leaned back in her chair. Let's see how you survive this, Sandra, she whispered. Sandra and Mama arrived at Sandra's small one-room house. It was a simple space with an old mattress on the floor, a small wooden table, and a single cooking pot. It was not much, but it was home. Sandra helped Mama sit on the mattress and handed her a cup of water. Mama, I know this place is small, but you can stay here with me as long as you want. Mama smiled warmly. My child, a house is not about size. It is about the love inside. And I can see you have a kind heart. Sandra smiled back and began serving the food she had bought earlier. As they ate, Mama suddenly sighed and looked at Sandra thoughtfully. My daughter, Mama began, I came to this city for a reason. Sandra looked up, curious. Why, Mama? What brought you here? Mama hesitated for a moment before speaking. I came to find a wife for my son. Sandra blinked in surprise. Your son? Mama nodded. Yes, my child. He is a good man, hard-working and kind. But he is not married, and I fear he might never settle down. Sandra smiled. That is a mother's worry, Mama. I am sure he will find a wife when the time is right. Mama held Sandra's hands gently. That is why I want you to be his wife. Sandra's eyes widened. She almost choked on her food. What? Me? Mama nodded, smiling. Yes, my daughter. From the moment I met you, I knew you were special. You are kind, respectful, and hard-working. You will make a good wife for my son. Sandra was speechless. She had not expected this at all. She looked at Mama, who was staring at her with hope in her eyes. After a moment, Sandra sighed and said, Okay, Mama. But I have to see him first. We need to know each other before talking about marriage. Mama beamed with happiness. That is fair, my daughter, but I must tell you something first. Sandra tilted her head. What is it, Mama? Mama hesitated before speaking. My son has no money. He is not wealthy, but he is very hard-working, very brilliant, and also very handsome. Sandra let out a small laugh. Mama, stop praising your son too much. Let me see him first before you sell him to me like a market woman. Mama laughed happily. Okay, my child, you will see him soon. Sandra smiled and shook her head. She did not know what to expect, but she was curious. Just as Sandra and Mama finished their meal, Sandra's phone rang. She picked it up and looked at the screen. It was an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello, good evening. A deep male voice came from the other end. Is this Sandra? Sandra sat up straight. Yes, sir. Who is this, please? The voice became sharp and angry. This is Austin Williams, the CEO of the company where you worked until today. Sandra's heart skipped a beat. This was her boss. She had never met him before. She had only spoken to him once over the phone on the day she was hired. He had been away on a business trip and had left his managers in charge. Sir, good evening, Sandra said cautiously, but Austin was in no mood for greetings. Sandra, how dare you? How dare you bring strangers into my office and beat up my fiancée with your street friends? Who gave you the right to cause such trouble in my company? Sandra's eyes widened in shock. She felt her chest tighten. Sir, that's not what happened. I swear I never brought anyone into the office to fight. I only helped an old woman who had nowhere to go. She was sitting quietly, not disturbing anyone, but your fiancé insulted her and told her to leave. Austin scoffed. So you are saying Emily is lying? Sandra sighed. Sir, I am telling you the truth. I would never fight in an office where I work. Your fiancé was rude to an old woman. When I came back from my break, I saw the woman standing outside, and when she told me what happened, I went in to ask Emily why she treated her like that. I only defended her, sir. That's all. Austin was silent for a moment, then he said coldly, You should have called me. You should have waited for me to come back and handle the issue myself. Sandra frowned. Sir, you were not around, and I did not think helping an old woman was something that needed permission. Would you have preferred that I let your fiancé insult her and do nothing? Austin ignored her question. Sandra, you are new in the company. You have only been there for 2 days, and you have already started bringing people in. That is unprofessional. Sandra was getting frustrated. Sir, I did not bring a crowd. It was just one helpless woman, and she wasn't even disturbing anyone. Austin sighed. It doesn't matter. Emily said she will leave me if I don't sack you, and I cannot lose my fiancé over a worker I barely know. Sandra felt a sharp pain in her chest. So this was the kind of man he was, a man who let his girlfriend control him. She let out a bitter laugh. Sir, with all due respect, I am not surprised. I expected this from you. Austin was silent. Sandra continued, her voice firm. I may have only worked for 2 days, but I have already seen the kind of man you are. You are a woman rapper, sir. A grown man who cannot make decisions for himself. Austin's breath hitched. What did you just say? Sandra shook her head. You heard me, sir. And you know what? I don't even care. Keep your job. I don't need it. Before Austin could say another word, Sandra ended the call. Sandra dropped the phone and took a deep breath. She was angry, but at the same time she felt free. She had been fired, but at least she had spoken her mind. Mama, who had been watching her closely, placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. My child, what is wrong? Who called you? Sandra forced a smile. Mama, it was my boss. He fired me. Mama gasped, her face filled with guilt. Because of me. Sandra sighed and nodded. Yes, Mama. Emily lied to him, saying I brought people to beat her up, and he believed her. He said his fiancé would leave him if he didn't fire me. Mama's face dropped. Oh, my child, I am so sorry. I am the reason you lost your job. Sandra shook her head quickly. No, Mama, don't think that way. If I lost my job for standing up for you, then I have no regrets. I will find another one soon. Mama sighed deeply. I feel so bad, my child. You are too good to suffer like this. Sandra smiled. Don't worry, Mama. Jobs come and go, but what matters is doing the right thing. I have no regrets. Mama held her hands. May the heavens bless you, my daughter. You will never lack in life. Sandra smiled, but deep inside she knew she had to find another job quickly. She had bills to pay, and now she had Mama to take care of too. Sandra and Mama sat in silence. Sandra was still thinking about how Austin had fired her so easily, while Mama seemed deep in her own thoughts. Suddenly, Mama's phone rang. Sandra turned sharply, surprised. She had never paid attention to Mama's phone before, but now that it was ringing, she noticed it was a very expensive smartphone. The latest model. Mama picked up the call quickly. Her voice was calm as she spoke. A deep male voice came from the other end, calling her Mama and telling her he had just returned from a trip. He asked her to come home because he wanted to see her. He sounded weak, and Mama's face changed slightly. She asked if he was okay, and he sighed before saying he was not feeling too well. Mama assured him she would come the next day and told him to rest. The call ended, and Mama slowly placed the phone back in her lap. Sandra, who had been quietly observing, asked who had called her. Mama smiled and said it was her son. Sandra was surprised. Mama explained that her son had just returned from his trip and had asked her to come home. He was sick, and he wanted to see her. Sandra became worried and told Mama she would go with her to see him. Mama refused, saying there was no need to worry and that she would call Sandra to come over soon. Sandra sat quietly for a moment, then looked at the phone again. It was too expensive for someone who had just arrived from the village with nothing. She asked Mama how she got such an expensive phone. Mama blinked quickly before laughing nervously. She explained that there was no constant electricity in her street, and she loved watching one particular daily TV show. Because of that, her son had used his savings to buy her the phone so she could watch it any time, even when there was no light. Sandra listened carefully before letting out a small laugh. She said Mama's son must really love her to buy such an expensive phone just for a TV show. Mama smiled proudly and said her son was very thoughtful. She told Sandra again that she would like him when she met him. Sandra shook her head playfully and told Mama to let her see the man first before matchmaking her with him. Mama grinned and told Sandra that her son was hard-working, brilliant, and very handsome. Sandra laughed again and told Mama to stop praising her son too much. She said jokingly that Mama was selling him like a market woman. The next morning, Mama woke up early and prepared to leave. Sandra helped her pack a small bag. She hugged Mama tightly and told her to call when she arrived. Mama smiled and assured her she would. Sandra watched as Mama walked away, feeling a strange sense of curiosity. Mama arrived at her son's house, still wearing her old village clothes. The journey had been long and she was tired, but her heart was filled with hope. She had not seen her son in months, and now she was finally here to meet him again. She stood at the gate, waiting. The tall iron gate of the mansion looked intimidating, and the security men watched her with suspicion. One of the gatemen, a young man with a thick voice, walked toward her. He looked at her from head to toe, his eyes filled with doubt. He turned and spoke into his walkie-talkie, telling someone inside the house that there was an old, dirty woman at the gate asking to see the boss. There was silence for a moment, then the walkie-talkie crackled again, and a sharp female voice came through. The gate swung open, and Emily stepped out. She was dressed in a tight designer gown and high heels, her face filled with irritation. The moment she saw Mama standing there, her expression turned into pure anger. Emily crossed her arms and scoffed. Her voice was sharp and filled with disgust. She looked at Mama like she was looking at something worthless. "You again? You old foolish woman, what are you doing here?" Mama stood tall despite her tiredness. Her eyes burned with anger. Her voice was firm as she spoke. "You stupid mannerless girl, I am here to see my son Emily," threw her head back and laughed loudly. Her laughter was filled with mockery. She pointed at Mama, shaking her head. "Your son, who you must be foolish and blind. I think you are going crazy, old woman. You missed your way to your miserable son's house." Mama's face remained calm, but inside she was boiling. Her hands clenched into fists. Emily stepped closer, lowering her voice but keeping the mockery in her tone. "Or did my village people send you to stalk me in the city? Let me tell you now, you will not succeed. You are wasting your time." Emily flipped her hair back and turned around, walking back into the house. Her heels clicked against the pavement, a sign of her arrogance. As she reached the door, she turned one last time. "Never come close to my husband's house again. You are not wanted here." The door slammed shut. Mama stood there, frozen. She felt anger, sadness, and frustration all at once. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had traveled all this way just to be insulted like this. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone and dialed her son's number. The moment he picked up, she did not waste time. Her voice was strong, but there was pain in it. "Come home now, I am at your gate, and I have never been so insulted in my life." Her son's voice on the other end was calm but urgent. "Mama, calm down. I am on my way to the house." Mama took a deep breath, but the pain in her heart remained. Minutes later, Austin's car screeched to a stop in front of his house. He stepped out in a hurry, his heart pounding. He had rushed back as soon as his mother called him. The moment he saw her standing outside, dressed in her old village clothes, he was shocked. His mother, the woman who had sacrificed everything for him, was standing at his gate, looking tired and frustrated. She was wearing dirty clothes. He could not believe it. His mother should never have been treated this way. He rushed to her side, his face filled with concern. "Mama, what happened? Why are you standing out here dressed like this?" Mama let out a heavy sigh. She placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her eyes filled with disappointment. "My son, I came to your company earlier today. I disguised myself because I wanted to test your wife-to-be. You have spoken so highly of her, and I wanted to see for myself if she was truly a good woman. Unfortunately, she failed so terribly." Austin's expression darkened. He was so angry. "Mama, what are you saying? What happened?" Mama took a deep breath and continued, "I was sitting quietly in your office. A kind young girl named Sandra helped me. She gave me her umbrella. She took me to work with her so that I would not be stranded in the rain. She fed me and treated me like a human being. But when Emily saw me, she insulted me. She threw me out of your office like I was nothing. She told me to leave and never return." "It's okay, Mama. Let's go inside. We will talk about everything later." He took her hand and led her into the house. The mansion was grand and luxurious, but at that moment it felt empty and cold. Austin guided his mother to her room and helped her settle in. "Mama, take a bath, eat and relax. You must be tired." Mama nodded, slowly walking inside the room. She was exhausted from everything that had happened. Austin was in the living room, trying to calm himself down. His mind was restless, filled with anger and disappointment. He could not believe everything his mother had told him. The woman he trusted and planned to marry had insulted and humiliated the one person who meant the world to him. His heart was heavy and his hands clenched into fists as he tried to control his rage. Just then, the door swung open and Emily walked in. She had a bright smile on her face as if nothing had happened. She walked confidently toward him, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "Honey, did you see one dirty old woman outside? She claimed to be your mother. The security guards almost let her in. Can you believe that? Some people don't know their place." Austin slowly lifted his head. His eyes darkened. His entire body tensed. His breathing became heavy. The room suddenly felt colder. Emily continued, flipping her hair and adjusting her dress as if nothing serious had happened. "I think she is one of those desperate villagers looking for help. You need to tell your security to stop letting these kinds of people hang around the gate. This is a high-class neighborhood. We don't need beggars around. She is my mother." Emily froze in place. Her smile disappeared instantly. She took a small step back, blinking rapidly. Her body stiffened as she processed his words. Her face turned pale. Austin stood up slowly, his movements controlled but dangerous. His eyes locked onto Emily's face with pure disappointment and disgust. "Don't ever in your life speak about my mother like that." Emily swallowed hard. She quickly forced a nervous laugh and waved her hand. "Oh, baby, I was just joking. I didn't know she was your mother." Austin's eyes darkened even more. "I don't care if you knew or not. The fact that you can insult an old woman, throw her out like she's nothing, and treat people with such disrespect shows exactly the kind of person you are." Emily panicked. She reached for his hand, but he stepped back. "Austin, please, I swear if I had known she was your mother, I would never have done that." Austin shook his head in disappointment. "This woman made me who I am today. We were once poor, Emily. We had nothing. But with God, my mother, and hard work, I became the man I am today. And now you think you can come into my life and disrespect the one person who sacrificed everything for me." Emily's hands trembled. She had never seen him this way before. Austin let out a deep breath, trying to control himself, but his next words made Emily's heart drop. "I dislike the fact that you lied on an innocent girl and made me sack her. Sandra did nothing wrong, but because of your wickedness and selfishness, I lost a good employee." That was the final straw. Emily shook her head quickly. "No, Austin, please, I love you. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I was only trying to protect our relationship. Please don't do this." Austin's expression did not change. His voice was cold and final. "Pack your things and never come back to my house again. Never. We are done." Emily's mouth fell open. Her body shook with shock and rage. She could not believe what she was hearing. "No, Austin, you can't do this. You can't throw me away like this after everything we've been through." Austin turned his back on her. He had nothing more to say. Emily let out a frustrated scream. She grabbed her bag and stormed toward the door. But before she left, she turned back and spat out her final words. "You are a foolish mummy's boy. You will never find a good wife like me to marry." Austin did not flinch. He did not respond. He simply watched as she stormed out of his house forever. The door slammed shut, leaving behind silence. Austin exhaled deeply. He felt relieved but also ashamed. He had trusted the wrong woman. Austin sat back in his chair, his mind still processing everything that had just happened. The house was finally silent. Emily was gone, and the air felt lighter without her presence. He let out a deep sigh and rubbed his forehead. His heart was still heavy with regret for firing Sandra because of a lie, but there was something else on his mind now. His mother stepped out of her room, looking fresh and relaxed after her bath. She sat beside him, her eyes filled with warmth and wisdom. She had been quiet since Emily left, but now she was ready to speak. "My son, I hope you see now that I was right. Emily was not the right woman for you," she said softly. Austin nodded. "You were right, Mama. I was blinded by the idea of love, but love without kindness is nothing. A woman who disrespects my mother can never be my wife." His mother looked at him warmly and began speaking softly. "My son, there is something you need to know. When I was with Sandra, I told her many things about you. I told her about your house, or at least what I made her believe was your house. I described a small old house in a poor neighborhood. I told her that my son is hard-working, brilliant, and kind, but has no money." Austin leaned forward, listening carefully. His mother continued, "I wanted to see if she would still agree to meet you, knowing that you were poor. Sandra never hesitated. She only said she needed to see you first and get to know you. She laughed when I praised you too much and even told me to stop selling my son like a market woman. That girl has a pure heart, my son." Austin chuckled, shaking his head. "Mama, you really made me sound like a struggling village boy." His mother laughed. "I had to, my son. I needed to know if she would accept you for who you are and not for what you have. Sandra passed the first test." Austin's face became thoughtful. "But I need to be sure, Mama. Many people pretend at first, but their true colors come out later. I want to see if Sandra will still look at me the same way when she thinks I have nothing." His mother nodded. "So what do you want to do, my son?" Austin leaned back and smiled slightly. "Mama, let's not tell her the truth yet. Let's go on with the flow. I want to disguise myself as a poor man and see if she will still accept me. If she truly has a good heart, she will not change when she thinks I am struggling." His mother's eyes sparkled with approval. "That is a wise decision, my son. A woman who loves you for your heart and not your money is the kind of woman you need." Austin nodded. "Exactly, Mama. Call Sandra and tell her I am back. Let her come over, but don't say anything about who I really am. I will act like a poor man, just as you described." His mother smiled. "But my son, since you want to go on with the flow, there is something you need to do. Sandra cannot come here because she believes you are poor. If she sees this mansion, the truth will be exposed immediately. So I will give you her number. You will call her, introduce yourself, and arrange to meet her somewhere else." Austin nodded in agreement. "That makes sense, Mama. I need to play my role well." If she is truly the kind of woman you believe she is, then she will accept me for who I am, not for what I have. His mother reached for her phone, scrolled through her contacts, and read out Sandra's number to him. Austin saved it and stared at it for a moment. He took a deep breath, then dialed. The phone rang for a few seconds before Sandra answered. Her voice was warm but curious. "Hello, good evening." Austin cleared his throat, making his voice sound softer, more humble. He had to sound like an ordinary struggling man, not the wealthy CEO he truly was. "Good evening. Am I speaking with Sandra?" "Yes, this is Sandra. Who is this, please?" Austin smiled slightly at her politeness. "My name is Austin. My mother gave me your number. She told me about you, how kind you were to her, and how you agreed to meet me." Sandra's voice brightened a little. "Oh, Austin, your mother spoke a lot about you too. She said you are a hard-working man." Austin chuckled lightly. "I try my best. Mama also told me you wanted to meet first before making any decisions. I respect that. So can we meet tomorrow?" Sandra did not hesitate. "Yes, that sounds fine. Where would you like us to meet?" Austin thought for a moment. He needed a place that fit his poor disguise. He could not invite her to a fancy restaurant. That would ruin everything. There's a small park not too far from the main market. It's quiet and has a few benches where we can sit and talk. Would that be okay? Sandra agreed. "Yes, that sounds fine. What time?" "Let's meet by 2 p.m. That way, the sun won't be too hot." "All right, I will be there," Sandra said. "Thank you, Sandra. I look forward to meeting you." "Same here, Austin. Have a good night." "You too," Austin replied before ending the call. He placed the phone down and let out a deep breath. His mother, who had been watching him, smiled knowingly. "She agreed without hesitation," his mother said. Austin nodded. "She did. That is a good sign." His mother patted his hand. "My son, I hope you find what you are looking for." Austin smiled slightly. "Tomorrow will tell." That night, as he lay in bed, he thought about the meeting ahead. He had never done anything like this before. The next day, Austin woke up early, preparing himself for the meeting. He carefully selected his outfit: simple, faded jeans, a plain t-shirt, and worn-out sneakers. He wanted to look as ordinary as possible. He even left his expensive wristwatch at home and took an old, cracked phone instead of his usual high-end one. Everything had to fit the role. By 1:40 p.m., he arrived at the park, choosing a quiet bench under a tree. He waited patiently, glancing around casually. He felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. At exactly 2 p.m., Sandra arrived. She wore a simple dress and flat sandals, her hair neatly styled. She looked around until her eyes landed on Austin. He stood up and waved, and she smiled as she walked toward him. "You must be Austin," she said, sitting down beside him. "Yes, and you must be Sandra," Austin replied with a warm smile. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, studying each other. Sandra spoke first, her voice light and playful. "I don't know why you bear the same name as that my foolish boss who sacked me." Austin burst into laughter, trying to control himself. "Really? Your boss was also named Austin." Sandra shook her head, crossing her arms. "Not was, he is. And I will never forget how he fired me over a lie. His fiancée is the most wicked and arrogant person I have ever met. She threw an old woman out of the office like she was nothing, and I defended her. Instead of investigating the matter, my boss chose to listen to his fiancée and sacked me." Austin leaned forward, pretending to be curious. "Wow, that sounds terrible. What kind of man would fire someone without hearing both sides of the story?" Sandra scoffed. "A blind, foolish man who lets a woman control him. Honestly, I feel sorry for him." Austin held back another laugh. "Maybe he regrets it now." Sandra frowned. "Well, that is his business. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Tell me about yourself, Austin. Your mother said a lot about you, but I would rather hear it from you." Austin smiled. "Well, there isn't much to say. I am just a simple guy trying to make ends meet. I do small jobs here and there, trying to survive. Life hasn't been easy, but I keep pushing." Sandra nodded, looking at him closely. "I respect that. Hard work is important. So do you have dreams? Things you hope to achieve?" Austin's smile widened. "Of course. I may not have much now, but I believe one day I will have a successful business of my own. I want to build something that will last, something that will make my mother proud. Sandra's eyes softened. That is beautiful. Your mother loves you so much. I could see it in her eyes when she spoke about you. Austin looked down, touched by her words. She is the most important person in my life. She raised me alone, sacrificed everything for me. I wouldn't be here without her. Sandra smiled. That is why I agreed to meet you. Any man who values his mother is a man worth knowing. Austin felt something warm in his chest. He had met many women before, but none had ever said something so simple yet so meaningful. They continued talking, sharing little details about their lives. Sandra told him about her struggles, how she had been searching for a job for months before finally getting one, only to lose it after 2 days. Austin listened attentively, nodding as she spoke. Hours passed and they didn't even notice. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the park. Austin looked at Sandra and smiled. I really enjoyed talking to you today. Sandra smiled back. Me too. You are different, Austin. I like that. Austin felt a strange sense of happiness. He had only just met her, but something about Sandra felt right. This was just the beginning. But he knew one thing for sure, Sandra was special. The next morning, Sandra was in her small room, thinking about her meeting with Austin the previous day. She had enjoyed their conversation, and there was something about him that felt different. Just as she was about to start her morning chores, her phone rang. She looked at the screen and saw an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello, good morning, she said. A familiar voice came through the line. It was the manager of the company she had been fired from. Sandra, good morning. I hope you are doing well. I am calling on behalf of my boss. He has realized his mistake and wants to make things right. He has decided to re-employ you, but this time as his personal assistant. Sandra was shocked. She had not expected this. Sir, I don't know what to say, she hesitated. The manager continued, Look, I understand how you feel, but the boss wants to correct his mistake. He has personally requested for you to take this position. You don't have to answer now, but I hope you consider it. Sandra wanted to refuse immediately. She had already moved on. But then she remembered the bills piling up. She needed a job, and opportunities like this didn't come often. After a deep breath, she finally said, Okay, I accept. That's great, Sandra. Please resume tomorrow morning, the manager said before ending the call. Sandra sat down, still in shock. She had just agreed to go back to work for the same man who had fired her so easily. She immediately called Mama. Mama, I have good news, Sandra said excitedly. Mama's voice was warm. My daughter, what is it? My old job called me back. They apologized and said my boss has learned from his mistake. They offered me a new position as his personal assistant, Sandra explained. Mama clapped her hands in excitement. You see, my daughter, good things come to those who have a good heart. I am so happy for you. Sandra smiled. Thank you, Mama. But I miss you so much. When are you coming to see me? Mama laughed. Soon, my daughter, very soon. Sandra chuckled, feeling relieved, but before she could say anything else, Mama continued. You see, my daughter, my son is a perfect match for you. Look at how he brought you so much good luck. First you met him, and now your life is changing for the better. Sandra groaned playfully. Mama, not again. Please don't start. They both laughed. The next day, Sandra dressed up in her best outfit and reported to work. This time she was no longer just a regular employee. She was now the personal assistant to the boss himself. As she walked into the building, she felt mixed emotions. She was happy to have a job again, but she also remembered how she had been treated before. She reached the top floor and was directed to the CEO's office. She took a deep breath before knocking on the door. Come in, a deep voice called out. Sandra opened the door and stepped inside. She froze for a moment when she saw the man sitting behind the desk. It was her boss. The same Austin she had insulted just days ago. The same Austin she had called foolish. Her heart skipped a beat. She had been talking to him all along and never knew. Austin smiled. Welcome back, Sandra. I hope you like your new position. Sandra was still in shock, but she quickly gathered herself. Thank you, sir. Austin leaned forward slightly. I want to sincerely apologize for everything my ex-girlfriend did to you. She was wrong, and I should never have believed her. I hope you can forgive me. Sandra nodded. It's fine, sir. I have already moved on. Austin smiled. That's good to hear. He then looked at her closely and said, You look beautiful today. Sandra frowned slightly. Thank you, sir, she said carefully. Austin continued, Would you like to go out with me sometime? Sandra's face changed immediately. She sat up straight, her voice firm. Sir, if this is the reason why you re-employed me, then I am done. I can't do this. Austin quickly raised his hands. No, that's not it. I am sorry if I made you uncomfortable. It was my bad. Sandra looked at him for a moment, then nodded. All right, I just want to focus on my work. After a long and exhausting day at work, Sandra finally got home. She threw her bag on the small wooden table and collapsed onto her bed with a deep sigh. Her mind was restless. The day had been strange, and she felt uneasy about everything. She reached for her phone and dialed Austin's number. He picked up after the second ring. Babe, how are you? Austin's voice was calm and warm. Sandra sighed. Austin, I don't like my boss. I don't feel comfortable working there. I think I want to stop. Austin sat up, pretending to be surprised. What happened? Did he do something wrong? Sandra frowned. I don't know how to explain it. He apologized for everything that happened before, which is fine. But then, out of nowhere, he started acting strange, saying I look beautiful and asking if I want to go out with him. It was so unprofessional. I told him straight up that if that was why he re-employed me, then I was done. Austin smiled slightly, though Sandra couldn't see him. He admired how firm she was. What did he say after that? Austin asked. Sandra sighed again. He apologized and said it wasn't like that. But still, I don't trust him. I feel like he has an agenda. I don't want to deal with workplace drama, Austin. I think I should just leave before things get worse. Austin's voice became serious. Babe, no, don't stop. You need that job, okay? Don't let anything distract you. Just focus on your work. If he tries anything funny again, stand your ground, but don't quit because of him. Sandra hesitated. Are you sure? Austin nodded on his end of the call. Yes, I'm sure. You are strong, Sandra. You worked hard to get this opportunity. Don't let one uncomfortable moment push you away. Just do your job and don't pay attention to him. Sandra sighed. All right, if you say so. I just don't want any trouble. Austin chuckled. You won't have any trouble, trust me. Sandra yawned. I'm really tired. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, babe. Sleep well, Austin said, smiling to himself. As Sandra ended the call, she still felt unsure, but Austin's words had reassured her. On the other side, Austin smirked as he placed his phone down. Few weeks later, Sandra arrived at work feeling refreshed. She had decided to take Austin's advice and focus on her job. She wouldn't let her boss's strange behavior distract her. As soon as she walked into the office, her boss called her into his office. She walked in and stood before his desk, waiting for him to speak. He leaned back in his chair and smiled. Sandra, as my personal assistant, your position comes with some benefits. First, you will be assigned a car. Second, you will be given a well-furnished apartment close to the office. Sandra's eyes widened in shock. She was speechless for a moment before excitement took over. Sir, are you serious? Her boss chuckled. Yes, Sandra, this is part of your job. You deserve it. Sandra couldn't stop smiling. This was more than she ever expected. Wow, sir, this is amazing, but... She paused and narrowed her eyes slightly. I hope this is not what I think it is. The man raised his hands. No, far from that. This is strictly work-related. But Sandra, I still like you. You are beautiful, and I admire you. Sandra's smile disappeared. She took a deep breath and shook her head. Here you go again, sir. Please stop. I am getting married soon. I am in love with someone else. Please stay away from me. Let's keep this professional. The man sighed, nodding slowly. All right, Sandra. I respect your decision. Let's keep things professional. Sandra gave him a small nod, then turned and walked out of his office. As soon as she got to her own office, she pulled out her phone and called Austin. He picked up almost immediately. Babe, you won't believe what just happened, Sandra said excitedly. Austin smiled, pretending not to know. Tell me, what happened? My boss just gave me a car and a well-furnished apartment. Can you imagine? Just like that. Austin chuckled. Wow, that's great news, babe. You see, I told you not to quit. Look at how things are working out for you. Sandra laughed. Yes, you were right. And because of that, I am taking you to a fancy restaurant this weekend. I am going to spoil you, my love. Austin's smile widened. Babe, do you have money for that? Sandra rolled her eyes playfully. Don't worry, okay? I will handle it. I insist. Austin hesitated for a moment before sighing. Fine. See you this weekend. Sandra giggled. Good. Start getting ready to be spoiled. As they ended the call, Austin leaned back in his chair, shaking his head in amusement. The day finally came. Sandra was excited as she got ready for her date with Austin. She wore a simple but beautiful blue dress and comfortable heels. She wanted to look nice, but not too extravagant. Austin arrived at her house, and together they took a taxi to the restaurant. They talked and laughed on the way, enjoying each other's company. Sandra was happy. She had never met a man as easygoing and kind as Austin. When they arrived at the restaurant, a waiter welcomed them warmly and led them to a cozy table near the window. The place was elegant, but not too intimidating. Sandra had chosen it carefully, wanting something nice, but not too expensive since she was paying. They looked at the menu and ordered their meals. Sandra felt proud. It was her first time taking a man out, and she wanted to make sure everything went smoothly. The food arrived, and they ate while chatting. Sandra told Austin about her day at work, and he listened with a smile. She loved how attentive he was. When they finished eating, Sandra reached into her purse to get money for the bill. She signaled for the waiter, who walked over with a polite smile. Sandra handed him the money, but the waiter gently shook his head. "Ma'am, your bill has already been covered," he said. Sandra frowned slightly, surprised. "What do you mean?" The waiter only smiled. "Everything you ate today has been paid for." Sandra looked at Austin in confusion. "Did you do this?" Austin raised his hands. "Babe, I am a struggling man. How could I afford this?" Sandra sighed, looking around the restaurant. "This is strange. Maybe there is some promotion or something." Austin only smiled and took a sip of his drink. They sat in silence for a few seconds before Austin suddenly placed his fork down and looked at Sandra seriously. "Sandra, I have something important to ask you," he said. Sandra looked up, curious. "What is it?" Austin took a deep breath. His heart was pounding, but his face remained calm. "Sandra, will you marry me?" Sandra froze. Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at Austin, not sure if she had heard correctly. Austin held her hands gently. "I know this might seem sudden, but I have never met a woman like you before. You are kind, selfless, and full of life. From the first day I met you, I knew you were special. I want to spend my life with you." Tears welled up in Sandra's eyes, but they were happy tears. Her heart was full. "Yes, Austin. Yes, I will marry you." Austin smiled and squeezed her hands. "You just made me the happiest man in the world." Sandra laughed softly, wiping her tears. "I can't wait to tell Mama. She will be so happy." Austin chuckled. "She will say, 'I told you my son is perfect for you.'" Sandra groaned playfully. "Exactly. Mama won't let me rest." They both laughed. A few days after the proposal, Mama called Sandra and invited her over for the weekend. She sounded excited, almost too excited, but Sandra didn't think much of it. She was just happy to see Mama again. On Saturday morning, Sandra got dressed and took a taxi to the address Mama had sent her. As the car got closer, she looked out of the window and frowned. The area was different from where she expected Mama to live. The houses were huge, the streets were clean, and everything looked expensive. When the taxi stopped in front of a massive mansion with tall iron gates, Sandra's heart started pounding. She checked the address on her phone again, thinking there must be a mistake. This couldn't be where Mama lived. She quickly dialed Mama's number. The call connected immediately. "Mama, I think I have the wrong address," Sandra said, her voice shaky. "I am standing in front of a big house. This place looks like where rich people live." Mama chuckled softly. "No, my daughter, you are at the right place. Come inside. I will explain everything." Sandra's hands trembled as she ended the call. She hesitated for a moment before stepping forward. The security guard at the gate, who had been expecting her, smiled and let her in. Her heart pounded as she walked toward the grand entrance. The house was breathtaking, with marble floors, tall pillars, and a beautiful garden. When she stepped inside, Mama was already waiting for her in the large living room. She stood up and hugged Sandra tightly. "My daughter, welcome," Mama said warmly. Sandra pulled back slightly, still in shock. "Mama, what is going on?" "This house. This is not what you told me before. You said your son was poor." Mama sighed and held Sandra's hands. "My daughter, sit down. I need to tell you the truth." Sandra sat down slowly, her heart racing. Mama took a deep breath. "My son, Austin, is not poor. He is actually the owner of the company you work for. The man in the office you thought was your boss was sent by Austin to pretend to be him. Austin wanted to test you to see if you would love him for who he is, not for his money." Sandra's mouth fell open. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You mean, Austin is not poor. He is the real CEO. He is my boss." Mama nodded. "Yes, my daughter. He never wanted to deceive you in a bad way. He just wanted to be sure of your heart before revealing the truth." Sandra shook her head in disbelief. She couldn't believe they had tricked her like this. She stood up, pacing the room, trying to process everything. "Mama, you and Austin went too far," she said, her voice mixed with frustration and confusion. "You made me believe he was struggling. You let me think I was taking care of him when all this time he had everything." Mama looked at her with pleading eyes. "I know, my daughter. Please forgive us. It was never meant to hurt you. We only wanted to be sure that you were the right one for him. And you proved it. You loved Austin even when you thought he had nothing. That is why he chose you." Sandra sighed, her emotions swirling. She was mad, but she also loved Austin and Mama dearly. After a few moments, she turned to Mama with a small smile. "I am still angry, but I love you and Austin. I forgive you." Mama clapped her hands joyfully and hugged her again. "Thank you, my daughter. I knew you had a good heart." A few months later, Sandra and Austin had a beautiful wedding. And they lived happily ever after. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.